Well, I think we've got a pretty good crowd, Marlene, and
Yeah,
do we want to kick things off?
sure. Yep. Well, good morning, welcome. My remarks are brief. I'm glad to see everyone. Some new faces on. I think we might be able to swing self-introductions. If you want to give it a try, Bill, Sam, should we do that?
Sure, why not?
Okay, well, I'm Marlene Salter with the Development Council.
Yeah, how are you going to organize this,
I
Marlene?
don't know.
You good?
I'll just call on names. How about Bill Whalen?
Hi, Bill Whalen with Ocean First Bank, co-chair with Sam Donaldson.
Yes. Ben's next on my screen.
Yeah, good morning. Ben Gallinelli, Southern New Jersey Development Council. Nice to see everyone.
Randy's next.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Randy McDonald with the Southern New Jersey Development Council.
And Tom's the next in line.
Hello all, I'm Tom Conroy, also with the Southern New Jersey Development Council. Pleasure seeing everyone tonight.
Sam.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Sam Donaldson with AECom. I'm, as Bill mentioned, I'm a co-chair of the Economic Development Committee along with him.
Thank you, Tim Mangold.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Tim Mangold with Pannoni Associates.
John Ober.
Morning, everyone. John Oberer with GZA Geoenvironmental.
Thank you, Ernie. Hannah.
Good morning, Ernie Hanna, also with GZA Geoenvironmental.
Hi, Sandy Horosiski.
Hey, Sandy Forestiski, Director of Economic Development, City of Vineland.
Our board chairman, Glenn.
Morning, everybody. Glenn Davila from Performance Marketing and board chairman, but just a attendee here today.
John.
John, I'm muted with the Development Council. Good morning.
Hi, Joe Briganti.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Briganti. I have a small consulting business and business development, redevelopment, Briganti Group Consulting.
Steve DiMatteo.
Hello, Steve DiMatteo, IBW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 351.
Max Slusher.
Hey, Max Slusher, Atlantic County Economic Alliance.
Chris Daly.
Hey, good morning. I'm Chris Daly with GEI Consultants. I'm an engineer and the co-chair of the Energy and Environmental Committee for the Southern New Jersey Development Council.
Ken.
Ken Long with Pannoni Associates.
Oh, I got Joe again. We did Joe. George Strachan.
George Strachan, Executive Director, Gloucester County Improvement Authority. We've been the developer for the Paulsboro Port.
Yeah, I think I missed Barry Ross.
Yes, hi, Barry Ross with GEI Consultants.
Yeah. Ed Melandro.
Hi, Ed Melandro, Business Administrator, Glassboro.
Ron Burkhart.
Hi, Ron Burkhart, Assistant Dean for Institutional Research and Planning at Salem Community College.
This next name I don't recognize, Seth Suki.
Hi, Sakti Sokol with Atlantic Shores Offshore Wind.
Oh, okay. Good morning. Laura Weiss.
Lisa Weiss, maybe?
Is that what it says? Geez, I got to put my glasses on.
Yeah. You're fine. I'm Lisa Weiss. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern New Jersey chapter of the Appraisal Institute, which is a professional organization for real estate appraisers.
Thank you. Mike Danko.
Hi, I'm Mike Danko. I'm with Mid-Atlantic Engineering.
Laura Wallach.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Laura Wallach, New Jersey Community Capital.
Olaf Olson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a representative with the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, Pile Drivers, Divers, and Dock Builders. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Courtney Dirks.
Good morning, Courtney Dirks with the Coriel Institute.
Bob Wheel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Wheel with Connor Strong and Buckaloo.
Luke Gordon.
Good morning, Luke Gordon with Sheet Metal Workers, Local 19.
Brian Tannenhouse.
Brian Tannenhouse from BD Engineering.
Morris Kalini.
Good morning, I'm Morris Kalim, the Senior Associate Dean at the College of Business at Rowan University.
Thank you. Jeff Day. Do we have, yeah, there's Jeff.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Dye here, Resource Renewal, Environmental and Energy Development.
I think that does it, Mr. Co-Chairs. That.
Okay.
I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I did, speak up. No, okay, so I'll turn this over to Sam.
Yep, that's right, Marlene. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Welcome to our Economic Development Committee meeting. Again, on behalf of my co-chair, Bill Whalen of Ocean First Bank, we're really happy you could join us today. We have a fantastic speaker in Mr. Doug Copeland. I'll give him a quick introduction here, but first I just thank you, Marlene, as always, for pulling this all together, to you and the staff, Tom, Randy, Ben, and the rest there at the Development Council. And thank you to our chair, Glenn, for joining us today. We appreciate you spending your time with us as well. So over to our speaker. So as I mentioned, we're very fortunate to have Doug Copeland with us. Doug is the development manager with Atlantic Shores Offshore Wind. I'll give you the bio on Doug. But Mr. Copeland has worked in the renewable energy industry for over 14 years, leading development efforts in onshore and offshore wind, solar, and energy storage. Currently, he oversees the development and overall portfolio of Atlantic Shores project with a focus on the pre-financial decision phase. In this role, Doug leads the interconnection strategy, liaisons with the fishing industry, oversees real estate efforts, external affairs, government relations, and port strategy. Doug, what do you do in all your free time then, I wonder? He served on offshore wind market advisory groups in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and as vice chair of the American Wind Energy Association's Offshore Wind Steering Committee. Prior to his career in the renewable energy industry, Mr. Copeland ran a nationally recognized economic development program, and he earned his bachelor's degree from Villanova and a master's degree from Boston College. So that is your bio, Doug, but we're excited that you're here. We're excited about what the future holds for offshore wind, particularly in New Jersey. I know I'm sure you'll go into more detail, but the development of I think in order 1,500 megawatts or so, just off the coast of Atlantic City. And I believe construction is not too far away. And of interesting to know, I think, as it relates to the Southern New Jersey Development Council, the commitment on the part of your company to train and hire local workers for construction and maintenance, I think, is really phenomenal, and something that we really look for. The commitment not only of capital spend, but also to dig in and train and hire local workers. So we're thrilled about that aspect of your project. But anyway, if people didn't dial in to listen to me talk, they wanted to hear you. So without further ado, I'm happy to welcome Doug Copeland to take over the mic. And I think we'll have questions later. Hopefully you wouldn't eat that up with the time with self-introductions, but hold your questions, and if we have time, and if Doug is okay with it, we'll have time for questions later.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sam. Again, Doug Copeland, Development Manager for Atlantic Shores. I'm from New York. I live in Philadelphia. So if you need me to make up time by speaking fast, I can do that just fine. I feel like I'm in a friendly crowd here. I will share my screen and just run through some slides about the project, give some framing to folks here. So let me go ahead and grab my screen here. Alrighty. Cool. Everybody see that all right?
Yep.
On the wrong slide there, but there we go. Okay, so appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Just for folks who don't know kind of too much about Atlantic Shores, we are a 50-50 joint venture with Shell and EDF Renewables. I've actually been in, I have to update my bio, I've been in renewables for now 17 years. I come from the EDF side of the joint venture, but when we began the joint venture about 4.5 years ago, there was 8 of us, and now we're about 130 full-time folks, but actually up to about 180 between the two parent companies. Many of whom have come from New Jersey, a lot of experience there, and then other folks coming from a lot of different backgrounds. Atlantic Shores, one of the things I think is just really important as we sort of frame is we have these 4 core values. So when we talk about how we work with our suppliers, our consultants, our communities, our team inside, we really focus on these core values of safety, being a good neighbor, environmental responsibility, and leading with science. And especially with some of the things that have come out recently with some of these whale concerns and these other things, really tried to follow all of these, and happy to sort of go through them as I run through the presentation. The next couple slides are a little bit of framing, just to give folks a little bit of background on kind of where this industry sits. So here's New Jersey sitting right here in the middle of all of these other offshore wind leases that are not proposed, but are actually actively leased off the coast of the US. And this comes from a DOE report from last year. And so we have, I'll have some better maps, but we are this lease here, or these 2 leases here, and this one there. But there's these other companies that are all out here, and many of them are quite keen to, utilize New Jersey Windport, utilize other local supply chain here in New Jersey. But this just shows all the different leaseholders that are here in the Mid-Atlantic region. And with that comes a tremendous amount of investment. This map is not 100%, kind of updated. This is from towards the end of last year, but just to see the billions of dollars that offshore wind is going to be incentivizing for opportunities here, as we really create this brand new industry in the US. And New Jersey is really in a great spot to leverage that. Those dots represent, things that folks are aware, very much aware of, whether it's this one here in Atlantic City, or you've got the Windport in Paulsboro. We've utilized some vessels coming out of Elizabeth. So definitely a lot going on here in the great state of New Jersey. For Atlantic Shores, we have a up to 5 gigawatt portfolio. So our first project, it was mentioned, is 1,500 megawatts. 1,500 megawatts, just in case you're curious, is about 700,000 homes. So that's a lot, and we hope to inject as much of this into New Jersey as we can. Our first project comes from the southern portion of this lease area here. Right now, New Jersey has an active solicitation for additional megawatts, anywhere from 1.2 to 4 gigawatts. So that's a couple million homes worth of power that the state is running a competition right now. Those bids are due at the end of June. And so we are looking at how best we can participate in that. The last February, so I guess, kind of 14 months ago, we acquired this 3rd lease here. And this is in the area that's called the New York Bight. And we're looking at how best to bring either that power into New York or New Jersey. We talk about these projects, I think it's really important to just frame them from a timeline. We acquired the first lease in 2018, and we're going to come online about a decade later. Now, our second project hopefully won't have a 10-year gestation, but just goes to show all the different aspects for our first project that we're working on. So right now, we're still in this phase here, and I've got some other slides that'll kind of cover a little bit more about this. But starting in 2024, we start to look at more of the manufacturing. And some of this construction work will either be at the very end of 2024 or be in 2025. But the hope is that, if all goes according to schedule, we'll be online with the first project operating towards the end of 2027, early 2028, with all of this different kind of onshore construction, onshore manufacturing, the offshore work, and then the operations and maintenance. So far, we have a number of key investments that we've made here in New Jersey. This one here at the top, for anybody who's been by Paulsboro, when I met George, I was in my 30s, and Paulsboro was just a muddy, flat surface. And now it doesn't quite look like it does here with the simulation, but this picture is out of date. This building is fully built. Next to it is the paint shop. And it's just really exciting to see how much EEW has been able to invest there. And we're really excited to be able to commit to buying our foundations for Project 1 from there. This picture should be very familiar for most of the folks on here. This is the Windport. We have a letter of intent that we've signed to lease a portion of this for our first project. We're working on actually getting the lease in place, and then looking to bring, we have a manufacturer, Vestas, that's been public, as our turbine vendor for our first project. They'll be located here as well, and really excited to see this broader vision for what this wind port could really be. Really represents an amazing opportunity for the industry, but especially wonderful to have it here in New Jersey. This rendering here down in the bottom middle, this is our operations and maintenance facility. This is a concept, it's not the final design, but we have a commitment for 88 jobs at the O&M center here in Atlantic City. So this would have our crew transfer vessels, or CTVs. They're in essence the Ford F-150 of the sea that we would use to maintain our vessel. Will be coming on shore in Atlantic City. We've purchased a lot there in the city, and then running our cables onshore about 12 miles to an area in Egg Harbor Township. We'll be building our substation. We also have a partnership with South Jersey Industries on an electrolyzer project for hydrogen as well. And all of this is really, predicated upon working with our local content and maximizing it as much as possible. We have an MOU that we've signed with the 6 New Jersey craft unions that will be a part of this project. And so Olaf and I go back many years and excited to be able to work with them initially on training and then on execution of the project as well, and the rest of the unions that are all part of it. So it's really exciting. And really just wanting to leverage that. So, when I talk about these kind of big investments, the things that we've been doing actually are pretty significant. We've spent the last couple of years doing surveys. So we have utilized New Jersey vessels for some of this. Alpine Engineering, they're located a little bit further north, but we've also used some other vessels out of Cape May. Really, brought in crews from around the world to do parts of this, but also a number of New Jersey consultants, especially on the terrestrial work onshore. But when people talk about offshore wind and they're kind of curious what we've been doing, and some are accusatory, I think it's really important to say that, we've done over 35 surveys looking at everything from turtles to, frogs onshore, to visual impact, to bats, to, just the FAA, all these sort of different things that are all part of the project. And all of that has been part of our project planning and development. So that's where we are now. So this is where we're using a number of New Jersey firms on civil and engineering, both design, but also preparing for construction. We're doing a lot of work, doing outreach to communities and working with local governments. And then we've got teams that are out there doing geotech, physical surveying work. And this is both onshore and onshore. And I believe we've used GZA actually for some of this as well. So really exciting to be able to have all this. And then once we finish this timeline, we get to kind of the next step, which is really we're going to have the manufacturing. So this is where the wind port really fires up for the work we'll be doing down there, working with local suppliers. Once the cables come on shore, when they come on shore, they actually go through something called a horizontal directional drill. So we go underneath the beach, we don't trench. So we will be about 60 feet below the beach. And when we pop up, we'll have 12 miles of cables inside of conduit that's going to be buried along our route. So this manufacturing of that conduit, all of that work will be started in 2024 as we prepare for all of this construction. And then we get to the point where we're actively building, get the project built, and then we get to operations. And so, as I was saying earlier, our first project will be based out of Atlantic City. We'll have about 88 staff there, plus any of the other support that comes with that. We'll have our vessels there, our operations and maintenance, kind of monitoring, all that kind of work is there. And so that's really the kind of the 3 main project phases. They're big, they take many years. But a lot of the work that we've been doing right now has really been reaching out to suppliers. So right now, if you haven't, if you're interested in potentially working with Atlantic Shores, we have a form right on our website that you can register. So we've been putting out requests for information, really, kind of talking to our tier 1 contractors and really asking many of them to find as much local content as possible. We made $848 million commitment to the state of New Jersey for local content for our first project. And so as we do all this, it's really incumbent upon us, for certain things, there might only be 1 or 2, international companies that can handle certain portions of offshore cable installation or the foundation install. But most of the onshore work, especially all that and some of the offshore, there's these wonderful opportunities where we might need a type of contractor who has a bonding capacity that exceeds many of the kind of small and medium-sized companies here in the state. But then they're going to work with a number of local firms. And so that's what we've been really focused on. And so with all that, these are kind of where we are now, where we've done the direct consultation for some of this work here. And then, like I said, those larger contractors, these ones on the right, these are the ones where we will bring in a company that's able to do this that might not be located in New Jersey, but really seeking, for them, to bring forward a competitive bid that involves as many New Jersey companies as possible. And lastly, this is just some of the things that we have done so far. So some of the different studies that we've done with firms from New Jersey, some firms from out, but really, again, trying to kind of maximize that local work. And I think that one of the cool things is that this is a brand new industry. There's a lot of places to learn and grow. And so I just want to give a shout out to an event. I heard somebody coming from Glassboro. So this is actually coming up at Rowan University next week. Member of my team, not my team, member of our Atlantic Shores team, who actually leads all of our interconnection work now. Maguette Fall is speaking, a number of other wonderful speakers. And if it's okay with you, Marlene, I can drop the link to this in the chat, or I can send it to you afterwards. But we're going to have some folks there. There's going to be a lot of other developers there. Just a great place to kind of hear about what's going on, meet other companies that are involved. And so I just wanted to give that kind of notification since I had the floor, and really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Wow, good stuff, Doug. With regard to the event coming up at Rowan, we will be there, and we have circulated it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's got a full lineup of speakers. That will be very interesting.
Yeah, and what's great about events like that one is so much of offshore wind is it's all exciting, but it's like, okay, how could my company be involved, or how do I know people that want to be part of this? And those kind of events give a wonderful opportunity to kind of really hear about it at a high level policy standpoint, but also be able to hear about it at that local workforce level as well.
Yeah, that's the big question that we get all the time from our membership and beyond our membership. It's we'd like to be involved, and we just don't know how to get there and who to talk to and what the process is. So we do spend a fair amount of time trying to facilitate some of those requests. So, but these events are also very helpful. So I'm glad.
And free. So, that's always a good thing too, right? So.
And free, yeah.
Actually, if you don't mind, if I can jump in to that point, our procurement team is giving a presentation after the event in the same room right after lunch that will talk about kind of similar to Doug's presentation, but also we're planning a series of kind of supplier forums in 2023. And so just look out for that, and we'll definitely let you know when those dates have been settled. And so that will dig more into the supply chain and kind of breaking it down and guiding people along, because it's not an easy thing to figure out, and we've realized that. And so we would like to support your members in that regard. So be on the lookout for that, and you can stick around from 1 to 2:30 after the Rowan event. Renee Sotelo from our procurement team can speak to you.
Great, thank you.
But Marlene, I'm happy to stick around for a couple minutes if there are any questions, but I also know you have an agenda, and I don't want to be that guy that pushed you over. So
don't worry. We all want to know as much as we can about this new industry to us. Certainly not new to you and probably the rest of the world, but it's new to us, and it's very complicated. We have found, working over the past couple of years with AECom Tishman and New Jersey EDA, that the more we learn, the more there is to learn. So folks, if you're on the line, you have questions, feel free.
Yeah, I have a question, Doug. My name is Ken from Panoni Associates. So talk to us about what date are you guys foreseeing weaning yourselves off the subsidies to be profitable as energy providers?
So that's an interesting question. So renewables have a tax credit, and I think that's, Ken, where you're perhaps going. There's a number of other kind of just that's the biggest one. So it's called there's either the PTC, the production tax credit, or the ITC. And I believe those expire, I think they might have a 10-year runway, we might have about 9 years left. And what those do is they do provide a tax credit based on the cost of the projects or production of the projects. I can't speak for certain about how it will work for offshore wind. We're continuing to drive down costs. It's a bit of a balancing act to ensure the lowest cost for the ratepayer, but also to maximize those opportunities for local economic development. There's certain products that it's much cheaper to make overseas, but we don't want to do that. We want to try to create those economies here in the U.S., whether that be the foundations that are in Paulsboro or some of the wind turbine components that are coming from Europe. And so really trying to keep our costs low, but also, like I said, want to respect the the fact that we want to have those jobs here. And so the answer to your question is probably one that I don't know if anybody fully knows the answer, but there's this constant push to drive the prices down, and actually the way to do that is the more local investment in CAF. Once a $300 million factory is set up, then that cost is sunk, and now you're able to produce those products at the same rate perhaps as you could get from other places, and so that those future projects would be able to come online with less subsidies. As far as that tax credit, I think if you were talking about other ones, there's kind of just business tax credits that are given for all sorts of different industries, but the ones around kind of renewables for ITC or PTC, I believe those are set to go kind of slowly ramp down over the course of the next decade.
Mr. Co-Chair, is anything?
I got a quick question. This is Ernie with GZA. Just as a follow-up to that one question, the budget proposal that's going through our federal government right now is looking at rolling back a lot of the credits for renewable. Doug, it just came out yesterday or the day before, so you probably haven't had a chance to look or get feedback, but how does that impact your planning for the future if these things are so, these credits tend to be so negotiable?
It's been one of the sort of the renewables industry has had these periods of boom and bust when there have been a lot of uncertainty around the tax credits. Right now, we're actually at a place where it looks fairly stable. There are folks in the industry who sort of have articulated like this might not be the best way to incentivize offshore wind. But at the same time, we plan for it. You have to work around it. You work with your lenders, you work with your other kind of financing folks that are involved in it, your counsel. There's definitely not a way that I can be like, oh yeah, we've snapped our fingers and we've got this all figured out. But it is one of those things that, when policy decisions are made to increase opportunity in whatever industry it is, those industries, leverage off of them and try to build on that. And so renewables has been something that has, there's a policy need for it. And that as the policy need has kind of set the foundation for it, you can see this in other types of renewables, especially in wind and solar, where they're able to start operating without subsidies. You can see it in Europe, where there's been a little bit of a longer track record, where those projects, many of them are now coming online, to Ken's point originally, where you don't have those concerns. They're just able to compete in the market, and in many ways are actually, in some cases, cheaper than kind of other forms of conventional generation. And so that's where the industry is kind of growing, and especially for offshore wind, trying to maximize that New Jersey and US content. I mean, we're going to have the first steel factory built in the US in a long time. There's going to be in Kentucky that's going to supply the steel that's going to go to the EEW facility to make those monopiles. That's amazing, and so you have these kind of things that have been, a little bit unpredictable, but you have this kind of broader arc of, okay, well, companies are able to make those investments. And that's really what we have to kind of go with, is that we expect things are, you're not just hope isn't a strategy. That's what I tell folks, but at the same time, you can kind of see these broader trends, and you can see a state policy, especially in New Jersey and New York, but in New Jersey, since that's what we're talking about, it says, hey, look, we're going to have these solicitations. We're making a commitment to offshore wind, and that allows us as a developer to predict how we would build projects and try to drive down costs. But more importantly, or just as importantly, it allows us to talk to the supply chain and say, here's what New Jersey wants. Over the course of the next 10 years, there's going to be a solicitation every couple of years. And you as a company, you as a supplier can look at this industry and see how it's going to mature and grow. And so if you are going to make a big investment, you can feel like there's already the framework for how you know that this is going to keep going. Because it's not like if you build a wind turbine blade and the projects don't get built, that you can kind of repurpose that blade. You know, if you're building things with concrete for like our conduit, and you know, our project uses some, but then, you know, there's not a need for it. There's plenty of other uses for concrete, but so many of these manufacturers are very much specialized. And that's where you have them, plus you have other companies you're trying to help retool to perhaps meet as, you know, kind of tier 2 or 3 or 4 suppliers into those. And that's where, again, this kind of collective policy effort here kind of guides our work. But there's always going to be uncertainty. That's just how it goes.
Thanks, Doug.
Hey, Doug, I am curious about something that occurred to me as I thought about your presentation today. That is, with the investment being made and moving some of the generation facilities offshore, what kind of conversation is occurring concerning the defense or the protection of all these installations? Because they're not going to be you know, visual, but I'm sure there's some planning going on in that regard. Can you comment on that at all?
You mean about people approaching them in ways they shouldn't once they're in operation? So,
yeah, or I mean, there are enemies of the United States recognizing maybe there's a percentage of the grid now with generation being produced beyond our maybe typical vision.
Yeah, I think that the people who want to do bad things are going to try to do bad things no matter where they're located. I mean, you have those folks who shot up some substations in different parts of the US. And, you know, when you go down to the nuclear power plant, it doesn't take too keen an eye to know that we are under very careful watch when we're driving around down there. And so for the turbines out at sea, I mean, one, they're monitored 24/7 remotely, plus during day and during bad storms, we're not going to have crews out there, at least not intentionally. But we're going to have a lot of monitoring that goes on out there. That what's really cool is it allows us, of course, to monitor our facility, but actually we'll be linked up with the Coast Guard. So should there be an overboard situation or some other disabled vessel, we'll actually be able to use our cameras and our other sensors that are on the turbines to help the Coast Guard in their rescue efforts. So we have, very detailed data on currents. And so we'd be able to combine, pinpoint notification of where someone might or where a vessel might have been disabled. You combine that with our data, the Coast Guard data on currents, and you actually be able to make some of that rescue actually more efficient. And so we take it very seriously. The turbines are very locked. They're very secured. They're not meant, to be tied up to. But it is absolutely something that all power generation has to take seriously. And so I don't think offshore wind is unique in that regard.
Thanks.
I think, Marlene, if there's other questions that come in afterwards, by all means, you know where to track us down. Of course, we're members too, so you can always happy to help. And if anybody is at the event and who decides to come down to the event at Rowan next week, I'll be down there with our commercial director and a number of other folks from the team. Happy to shake your hand, see you in 3D. But otherwise, we are excited to be part of this group and really excited for our investment in New Jersey that we've made so far. And really, on the flip side, looking for other ideas. And so if there's something that you heard today that you're like, hey, look, here's a way for you to get some other workforce efforts, or, I'm a local supplier, how could I get involved? Like that's where we're, as much as here I am presenting, we're also, that's why you've got Satsuki and I on, and telling you about these other things we're doing. We really do want to hear so that we can keep growing our projects, keep improving them, and keep finding ways to grow the economy of New Jersey.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Doug. I just would mention that in June at our construction forecast, I suspect we're going to hear a lot more about offshore wind in general, but particularly what you're doing, what Orsad's doing. So we do have a flyer that we can put up on the screen just to remind folks that, yeah, it's there it is. It's June 9th at Stockton. And I would say that the more of these programs that we can do, particularly coming from you, Doug, and from Orsted, the better. What we hear a lot of is, again, as much as we talk about this, there's still a huge community that doesn't know, or they say they don't know what's going on. So I'm just always thinking about marketing efforts, visibility, public relations. Almost the more the better, because I just can't imagine how people are missing this, but we do hear a lot of members and non-members saying, well, gee, I didn't know that. And it just surprises me. But please mark your calendars for June 9th at Stockton. I think you'll find that a worthwhile morning. And Doug, thank you.
Thank you.
For your presentation.
Really appreciated the opportunity.
Doug, thank you for sharing, everything from core values to the economic impact and your partnerships with labor and all the training you're doing, all the rest of it. We're very, very appreciative to hear about all that this morning. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks again.
Thanks.